The mockery of power. The Cruathan warship Eternal Conquest cut through the void of space like a blade through silk. Commander Thex stood motionless on the command deck, his forearms crossed in a gesture of supreme confidence. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world, giving them thick, armored skin the color of burnished copper and a natural superiority complex that matched their physical strength. Around him, the bridge crew of 200 Cruathans worked with mechanical precision, preparing for what they considered would be another routine subjugation. The massive view screen before them displayed tactical data from their armada of 300 warships. Each vessel measured over 2 kilometers in length, bristling with plasma cannons that could reduce a moon to molten slag. The Cruathan Empire had never lost a battle in their 5,000-year history of conquest. They had no reason to believe today would be different. A communication signal interrupted the steady hum of the bridge. Sub-Commander Krex, younger and more cautious than his superior, turned his elongated head toward Thex. His voice carried the distinctive clicking undertone of their species when he spoke. "Commander, we're receiving another transmission from the Mallory Collective. They insist on speaking with you about the Earth situation." Thex's mandibles clicked in amusement. The Mallory were known throughout the galaxy as information brokers and diplomatic intermediaries. They never fought, but they always seemed to know more than they should. "Put them through," he commanded, his deep voice reverberating through the bridge. "Let us hear what the cosmic gossips have to say this time." The holographic projector in the center of the bridge hummed to life, revealing a Mallory representative. The being stood barely a meter tall, with translucent skin that showed the complex network of neural pathways beneath. Its large, multifaceted eyes reflected the bridge lights like tiny galaxies. When it spoke, the universal translator rendered its bioelectric pulses into words. "Commander Thex of the Cruathan Empire," the Mallory began, its tone carrying an urgency that transcended species. "I am Coordinator Velis. We implore you one final time to reconsider your approach to Earth. The humans are not what they appear to be." Thex's laughter boomed across the bridge, causing several junior officers to flinch. "Not what they appear? They appear to be primitive mammals who have barely managed to leave their planet's gravity well. Their fastest ships would take decades to reach their nearest star. Their weapons still rely on chemical explosives and kinetic projectiles. Tell me, Coordinator, what hidden strength could such creatures possibly possess?" Velis moved closer to the projection field, its neural pathways glowing brighter with emphasis. "The humans have a saying, appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. We have observed them for 70 of their years. They deliberately broadcast their conflicts and weaknesses on open channels. They want the galaxy to underestimate them." Sub-Commander Krex shifted uneasily at his station. The Mallory were rarely wrong about such matters. But Thex waved a dismissive arm, his scales rippling with confidence. "Paranoid speculation. Every species hides some military secrets. It changes nothing. Our scanners show their actual technology level. Nuclear fission, primitive fusion experiments, electromagnetic communications. They're at least 300 years behind us." "Commander," Velis persisted, "consider their history. In less than 200 years, they progressed from riding animals to reaching their moon. No other known species has advanced that quickly. They fought 2 global wars that killed millions of their own kind, yet they emerged stronger each time. They split the atom less than a century after discovering electricity. Does this not concern you?" Thex approached the hologram, his massive frame dwarfing the Mallory's projection. "It tells me they're violent and self-destructive. Perfect qualities for slaves once we break their spirit. Their rapid advancement merely means they'll be useful workers once properly controlled." The neural pathways in Velis's transparent skin pulsed rapidly, a sign of extreme distress among their kind. "You don't understand. The humans have been listening to our communications for decades. They know about the Cruathan Empire, about your tactics, about your technology. They've had time to prepare." "Prepare?" Thex's mandibles clicked in amusement. "What preparation could matter? We have destroyed civilizations that spanned entire star systems. We have weapons that can crack continents. Their nuclear weapons are firecrackers compared to our plasma cannons. Their shields, if they even have them, couldn't stop a single barrage from our fleet. Meanwhile, 3 light years away in a bunker buried beneath the Sahara Desert, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a wall of monitors that stretched from floor to ceiling. Each screen showed different aspects of humanity's greatest deception. For 40 years, ever since humanity had first detected alien communications, They had been preparing for this moment. The bunker itself was a marvel of engineering, extending 2 kilometers underground and hardened against any known form of attack. Around Chen, nearly 1,000 of Earth's brightest military minds, scientists, and strategists worked in coordinated silence. They called themselves the Shadow Command, and officially, they didn't exist. General Marcus Rodriguez, Chen's second in command, approached with a tablet showing the latest intelligence. His weathered face bore the scars of conventional warfare, but his eyes held the sharp intelligence of someone who had learned to fight in dimensions beyond the physical. "Admiral, the Crothan fleet has passed the Oort cloud. They're exactly where our models predicted they would be." Chen studied the data with the intensity of a chess master examining the board before a critical move. "How are our actors performing?" Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Perfectly. The visible fleet is maintaining standard orbital patterns around Earth. Energy emissions are consistent with early 21st century technology. The surface broadcasts are showing the usual mix of entertainment, news, and political discord. To any external observer, we look exactly like a Type 0.7 civilization on the verge of either breakthrough or self-destruction." Dr. James Park, the lead scientist of the Shadow Command, joined them at the Central Command Station. His appearance was deceptively ordinary, just another middle-aged man in a rumpled lab coat, but his mind had revolutionized humanity's understanding of physics in ways the public wouldn't learn about for decades, if ever. "Admiral, all quantum entanglement nodes are stable. The Crothan's own scanning beams are actually powering our hidden network. They're literally feeding our trap every time they look for threats." Chen nodded slowly. "And they have no idea. How could they?" Park replied. "We've been broadcasting radio signals showing our best technology for decades. Every science documentary, every military parade, every leaked weapons test, all carefully crafted to show us as advanced enough to be interesting, but not advanced enough to be threatening. We've turned our entire planet into a stage, and everyone above ground is an unwitting actor in the greatest deception in human history." On the surface, life continued as normal. 8 billion humans went about their daily routines, unaware that their seemingly chaotic civilization was actually performing a carefully orchestrated dance. The visible military installations maintained their regular operations. Satellites that appeared to be simple communication relays continued their orbits. The International Space Station, that quaint symbol of human cooperation, slowly rotated in low Earth orbit. Back on the Eternal Conquest, Commander Thex ended the communication with the Mallory with a contemptuous gesture. "Navigator, set course for Earth, maximum speed. I want to be in orbit within 10 cycles." He turned to address his bridge crew, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast command center. "Warriors of Cruatha, we stand on the verge of our 300th conquest. The humans will serve as an example to the rest of the galaxy. No amount of clever thinking or desperate planning can stand against absolute power." Sub-Commander Krex approached his superior carefully. "Commander, should we not at least increase our scanning intensity?" The Mallory seemed genuinely concerned. Thex's 4 arms gestured dismissively. "The Mallory see shadows and conspiracies everywhere. It's how they maintain their relevance in a galaxy of warriors and conquerors. Scan if you wish, but you'll find nothing except what we already know. A primitive world ripe for conquest." As Krex returned to his station and initiated deeper scans of the Sol system, he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The readings were exactly what they expected. Too exactly. Every measurement matched their predictions with perfect precision. No random variations, no unexpected energy spikes, no anomalies of any kind. It was as if the entire star system had been arranged specifically for their sensors. The Cruathan fleet accelerated toward Earth, 300 ships moving in perfect formation. They passed Neptune's orbit, their sensors cataloging the ice giant and its moons with routine efficiency. They noted the human probe still transmitting from Neptune's moon Triton, a primitive thing that had taken decades to reach its destination. How could a species that needed 30 years to send a simple probe to their outer system pose any threat to the Cruathan Empire? As they approached Saturn, Thex ordered a demonstration of power. "Target that human space station orbiting the 6th planet. A single low-power shot. Let them know we're coming." The tactical officer complied, and a beam of coherent plasma lanced out from the Eternal Conquest. The human station, really just an automated research post, exploded in a brief flash of light. On Earth, the destruction was noted, catalogued, and incorporated into the plan. The humans needed the Cruathans to feel confident, even arrogant. Pride, as humanity had learned through bitter experience, came before the fall. Admiral Chen watched the destruction of Research Station Delta with no visible emotion. That station had been evacuated months ago, its crew replaced with convincing automated systems. Every piece of equipment that exploded had been carefully selected to give the exact sensor readings the Cruathans expected. Even the debris pattern had been calculated in advance. "They took the bait," Rodriguez observed. "They're showing off, trying to intimidate us." Chen's smile was cold and calculating. "Let them. Every shot they fire tells us more about their weapons. Every maneuver reveals their tactical doctrine. They think they're hunting, but they're actually performing for us." Dr. Park looked up from his quantum monitoring station. "Admiral, the entanglement field is reaching optimal density. When they cross Mars' orbit, we'll have complete coverage. They won't be able to send a signal to a neighboring ship, much less back to their empire." The hours passed as the Cruathan fleet continued its approach. They encountered human satellites and destroyed them casually, each small victory reinforcing their confidence. The human response was exactly what they expected: panicked radio transmissions, failed attempts at communication, and finally, a broadcast on all frequencies from Earth's united governments. The image that appeared on the Eternal Conquest's main screen showed a human male in military uniform. General Harrison Wright, according to the identification provided. He looked tired, defeated, and desperate, exactly as a leader of a doomed world should look. Thex didn't know that Wright was actually a retired actor who had won 3 Academy Awards before being recruited for this ultimate performance. "Alien Fleet," Wright began, his voice carrying just the right mixture of fear and attempted dignity. "I am General Harrison Wright, speaking for the United Governments of Earth. We know we cannot stand against your technology. We've seen what you did to Research Station Delta. We ask, no, we beg for terms of surrender. Please, we have families, children. We'll cooperate. We'll serve. Just please don't destroy us." Commander Thex's laughter filled the bridge. This was even easier than expected. "Look how quickly they break." Not even a token resistance. "Sub-Commander, open a channel." As Thex prepared to deliver his terms of surrender, terms that would strip humanity of freedom for generations, he had no idea that every word he spoke was being analyzed by quantum computers that officially didn't exist. Every gesture was being studied by xenopsychologists who had spent decades preparing for this moment. Every emotional tell was being catalogued by artificial intelligences that humanity claimed it hadn't yet invented. The trap was set. The prey had taken the bait, and in bunkers hidden beneath every continent, in submarines lurking in ocean trenches, in installations carved into mountains and buried beneath deserts, humanity's real defenders waited for the signal to reveal that Earth's greatest weapon had always been its ability to make enemies underestimate the ingenuity of a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and its own worst impulses. The Cruathans thought they were about to conquer a primitive world. They were about to learn why humans had a saying, "Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake." The jaws of Victory Commander Thex stood at the center of his bridge, savoring the moment of triumph. The human general's pathetic plea for mercy still echoed in the vast command center. Around him, his warriors prepared for what they assumed would be a simple occupation of a broken world. The Cruathan fleet had crossed Mars' orbit and was now approaching the red planet itself, their formation tight and confident. "Humans of Earth," Thex broadcast, his voice carrying the authority of 300 conquered worlds. "Your surrender is accepted. You will disable all defensive systems immediately. You will gather your leaders in your major cities for processing. Any resistance will result in the immediate sterilization of your continent. You have 1 of your hours to comply." On Earth's surface, the visible response was exactly what the Cruathans expected. Cities erupted in panic. News broadcasts showed crowds fleeing urban centers. Military bases appeared to power down their defensive systems. The few orbital defense platforms that Earth officially possessed went dark, their running lights extinguishing one by one. To the Cruathan sensors, it looked like a world accepting its fate. But 2 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that had no name and appeared on no maps, Captain Lisa Tanaka watched her screens with the patience of a hunter who had waited years for this moment. She commanded one of 12 quantum response nodes scattered across Earth and hidden throughout the solar system. Her fingers hovered over controls that would unleash technology humanity had developed in absolute secrecy. Quantum field density at 93%. Her tactical officer reported. The Cruathans are exactly where we want them. Their entire fleet is within the engagement envelope. Tanaka nodded. Hold steady. We move on Admiral Chen's signal. Not a second before. The Cruathan fleet continued its approach, now passing within the orbit of Mars. Sub-Commander Krex studied his sensors with growing unease. The readings were still perfect, too perfect. Every piece of space debris was exactly where their models predicted. Every energy signature matched their expectations precisely. It was as if space itself had been arranged for their convenience. Commander, Krex ventured carefully, I'm detecting some unusual quantum fluctuations in local space. They appear to be everywhere. Thex didn't even turn from the view screen. Solar radiation interacting with their primitive satellites. Don't jump at shadows, Sub-Commander. But Krex's instincts, honed by hundreds of battles, screamed that something was wrong. He pulled up a detailed analysis of the quantum fluctuations. They weren't random. They formed patterns almost like a web stretching through space, and they were growing stronger. Meanwhile, in the Shadow Command bunker, Admiral Chen stood before the master tactical display. The Cruathan fleet appeared as 300 red dots now well within the trap. Around them, invisible to Cruathan sensors, were thousands of green dots, humanity's real defenses. Status report, Chen commanded. General Rodriguez consulted his displays. All actors have evacuated to safe zones. Surface populations have been moved to hardened shelters without their knowledge. They think they're fleeing to refugee camps. The visible military has performed perfectly. The Cruathans believe we're completely helpless. Dr. Park added his own assessment. The quantum entanglement field is at 98% saturation. When we activate it, the Cruathans won't be able to use their faster-than-light communications, their navigation systems, or even their basic sensors. They'll be blind, deaf, and dumb. Chen turned to her communications officer. Send the activation code to all nodes. Authorization, Prometheus Rising. Across the solar system, hidden installations received the code. On the dark side of the moon, beneath the lunar surface, massive quantum generators hummed to life. In the asteroid belt, what appeared to be ordinary space rocks revealed themselves as carefully disguised weapons platforms. Even on Mars, which the Cruathans had just passed, buried facilities activated systems that had been waiting for this moment. Back on the Eternal Conquest, alarms suddenly screamed across the bridge. Sub-Commander Krex spun toward his commander, his forearms working frantically at his controls. Commander, the quantum fluctuations are spiking beyond anything in our database. Before Thex could respond, space itself seemed to twist. The stars outside their viewports didn't just dim, they disappeared entirely. The tactical displays that had shown clear readings seconds before dissolved into static. Communication channels that had connected the 300 ships of the fleet went silent simultaneously. What is happening? Thex roared. All stations report. But even internal communications were failing. The quantum entanglement field wasn't just jamming their technology. It was fundamentally altering the quantum states that their technology relied upon. The Cruathans had never encountered anything like it, because no species they had conquered had ever thought to weaponize quantum mechanics itself. Then, through the static and confusion, new signals appeared. Not on their communication channels, those were completely dead, but as direct projections onto their view screens. The image of General Wright appeared again, but this time he wasn't cowering. He was standing tall and he was smiling. Hello again, Commander Thex, Wright said, his performance-perfect fear completely gone. I should introduce myself properly. I'm actually Admiral Harrison Wright, retired, currently serving as a theatrical consultant to Earth Shadow Command. My performance earlier was specifically crafted based on our xenopsychological profiles of your species. You responded exactly as our models predicted. Thex lunged toward the view screen, his mandibles clicking in rage. Impossible. Your technology is primitive. We scanned everything. Wright's image continued, obviously a pre-recorded message. You scanned what we wanted you to scan. For 40 years, we've been showing you exactly what you expected to see. Every satellite you detected was a prop. Every military base you observed was a stage. Every communication you intercepted was a performance. While you were watching our theater, we were building something else entirely. The view screen shifted to show Admiral Chen, standing in the Shadow Command Center. Behind her, displays showed technologies that shouldn't exist on a Type 0.7 civilization: quantum computers, antimatter reactors, gravitational wave generators, and weapons that manipulated fundamental forces. "Commander Thex," Chen began, her voice calm and measured. "Humanity received its first alien signal 73 years ago. We learned about your empire 50 years ago. We've spent half a century preparing for this moment. You thought you were hunting us, but we've been setting this trap since before your scout ships first detected our radio emissions." The image changed again, showing the true extent of humanity's deception. Hidden bases throughout the solar system revealed themselves. What the Croathans had dismissed as asteroids were actually camouflaged battle stations. The space debris they had ignored contained millions of autonomous combat drones, each no larger than a human fist but carrying antimatter warheads. Even Earth's moon had been hollowed out and converted into a massive fortress. Thex tried to issue orders, but his crew couldn't hear him over the quantum interference. Each Croathan ship was now isolated, unable to coordinate with the others. Their proud fleet had been reduced to 300 individual vessels, each blind and confused. Then the real attack began. From Earth's surface, beams of coherent gravitational waves, technology that shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years by Croathan estimates, lashed out at the alien fleet. These weren't weapons that destroyed through heat or kinetic impact. They literally twisted space around the Croathan ships, creating localized distortions that pulled their vessels apart at the molecular level. The autonomous drones activated, swarming the Croathan ships like angry hornets. Each drone was equipped with a simple artificial intelligence that had been programmed with one directive: disable, don't destroy. Humanity didn't want to annihilate the Croathan fleet. They wanted to send a message to the galaxy. On the Eternal Conquest, Thex watched in horror as his tactical officer managed to restore partial sensors using backup systems. What he saw defied everything he believed about humanity. Ships that had been hidden using technology that bent light itself were emerging from what had appeared to be empty space. These weren't the primitive vessels they had expected. They were sleek, angular craft that moved without visible propulsion, manipulating gravitational fields to achieve speeds that should have been impossible. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect wasn't the technology, it was the strategy. The humans weren't just defeating the Croathan fleet. They were doing it with surgical precision. Each strike disabled weapons and engines while leaving life support intact. Each attack was calculated to incapacitate, not kill. It was a level of control that spoke to decades of preparation and a deep understanding of Croathan psychology. Sub-Commander Krex, working frantically at his station, managed to establish a local communication link with his commander. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from Earth itself. It appears the entire planet has been weaponized. Indeed, Earth's true nature was finally being revealed. The planet's magnetic field, which the Croathans had dismissed as a natural phenomenon, was actually being controlled by a network of superconducting installations buried deep in the mantle. With subtle adjustments, humanity could use their planet's magnetic field as a shield or a weapon, deflecting attacks or focusing electromagnetic pulses with devastating precision. The cities that had appeared to evacuate in panic, they were actually massive holographic projections. The real cities were deep underground, connected by vacuum transport systems that could move millions of people in minutes. Earth's surface was essentially an elaborate facade, a stage upon which humanity had performed the role of a primitive civilization. Admiral Chen's voice echoed through every Croathan ship simultaneously, somehow cutting through the quantum interference with perfect clarity. "Commander Thex, your fleet is disabled but not destroyed. Your crews are alive but helpless. This is not cruelty, it's mercy. We want you to return to your empire with a message." The view screens on every Croathan vessel showed the same image: Earth, but not as they had seen it before. The planet's true defense grid was revealed, a shell of interconnected weapons platforms, shield generators, and sensor arrays that turned the entire world into a fortress. But more importantly, it showed ships, thousands of them, emerging from hidden bases on Earth, from the ocean depths, from underground hangars, and from the dark side of the moon. "This is humanity's true fleet," Chen continued. "Each vessel is equipped with our quantum drive technology, We can reach your homeworld in days, not years. We have weapons that manipulate fundamental forces, shields that exist partially in alternate dimensions, and the will to use them if threatened. But we choose not to. Thex found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. Why? Why show mercy when you could destroy us? Chen's expression softened slightly. Because humanity learned something from its own violent history. True strength isn't shown by destroying your enemies. It's shown by turning them into allies. Your empire rules through fear. We offer something different. Partnership. The quantum interference began to clear, but the Cruathan weapons remained disabled. Their engines flickered back to life, but only enough for basic maneuvering. They were being allowed to leave, but they would limp home with their pride shattered and their worldview destroyed. You have a choice, Commander Thex, Chen said. Return to your empire. Tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that humanity offers two paths: friendship and mutual benefit, or conflict with a species that spent 50 years turning deception into an art form and their entire star system into a weapon. We don't want to conquer. We want to explore, to learn to grow alongside other species. But we will defend ourselves, and as you've learned today, we're very, very good at it. The human fleet began to pull back, creating a corridor for the Cruathans to retreat through. It was a gesture of surprising respect. They were being allowed to leave with dignity even in defeat. As the Eternal Conquest slowly turned toward home, Sub-Commander Krex approached his commander. Sir, what do we tell the Empire? Thex stood in silence for a long moment, staring at the blue marble that had shattered his understanding of the universe. We tell them the truth. We tell them that humans are not what they appear to be. We tell them that Earth is not a world to be conquered, but a potential ally to be respected. And we tell them that the greatest weapon in humanity's arsenal isn't their technology. It's their ability to wait, to plan, and to turn their enemies' confidence against them. As the Cruathan fleet limped away from Earth, Admiral Chen stood in the Shadow Command Center surrounded by her staff. The greatest deception in human history had succeeded. Earth had revealed itself as a major galactic power not through conquest, but through the calculated use of misdirection and preparation. General Rodriguez approached her. Think they'll be back? Chen shook her head. Not as enemies. We gave them something more valuable than their lives. Wow, we gave them a story. The story of how the mighty Crothan Empire was defeated not by superior firepower, but by superior planning. That story will spread through the galaxy faster than any fleet. Others will think twice before threatening Earth. Dr. Park added his own observation. We've changed the game. Every species that considered us primitive will have to reconsider. We've shown that technological advancement isn't always visible, that true power can be hidden, and that humanity's greatest strength is our ability to adapt and deceive when necessary. Around Earth, the hidden defenses began to return to their camouflaged states. The quantum field powered down to minimal levels. The visible satellites and stations returned to their roles as props in humanity's ongoing performance. To any new observer, Earth would once again appear to be a primitive world, struggling with basic spaceflight and international cooperation. But now the galaxy knew better. The word would spread through diplomatic channels and whispered conversations in space stations across known space. Earth was not what it seemed. The humans were not primitive. They were patient, clever, and extraordinarily dangerous when threatened. They had turned their entire solar system into a trap and waited decades for someone to spring it. In the weeks that followed, Earth received numerous diplomatic overtures from species that had previously ignored them. The Mallory Collective, whose warnings had been dismissed, became humanity's first formal ally. Other species, seeing the wisdom in friendship rather than conflict with Earth, began to establish trade relationships and cultural exchanges.